Professor Jake Martinez had made exactly 3 major mistakes in his life. The first was getting a PhD in xenobiology before humanity had actually met any aliens. The second was volunteering to be a liaison for the Galactic academic exchange program because he thought it would look good on his resume. The third was drinking his 4th cup of coffee before the orientation meeting, which meant he was both exhausted and jittery when Commander Vrix walked through the door. Walked was generous. Vrix didn't walk so much as he conquered the space around him with each step. Standing at roughly 8 feet tall with chitinous plates covering his shoulders and what Jake could only describe as way too many joints in all the wrong places. The Crothian commander looked like someone had crossed a praying mantis with a Viking and then given the result an attitude problem. Behind Vrix shuffled 3 smaller aliens, each about 6 feet tall and significantly less intimidating. The first, Pip, clutched a datapad to his chest like a security blanket, his antenna twitching nervously. The second, Zarn, had the universal teenage energy of someone too cool to be here, already recording everything on some holographic device. The third, Moop, just looked confused about everything, his 3 eyes blinking independently in different directions. Professor Martinez, Vrix announced, his voice like gravel in a blender. I am Commander Vrix of the Crothian Imperial Fleet. These are my charges. I trust your primitive facilities will be adequate for their education. Jake took a long sip of his coffee. It was going to be that kind of day. Welcome to Earth, Jake said, his voice flat. Please sign these 17 liability waivers, these 8 medical consent forms, and this acknowledgement that you understand Earth as gravity might be different from what you re-used to. Liability waivers? Vrix laughed, a sound like metal scraping metal. What could possibly threaten a Crothian warrior on this backwater planet? We have conquered 47 worlds. We have survived the plasma storms of Theta 9. We have hunted the great beasts of Corax Prime. Great, Jake muttered. We have geese. Sign the forms. The orientation went downhill from there. Jake walked them through the basic campus layout, pointing out the cafeteria, which humans generally don't die in, the library, which has never killed anyone to my knowledge, and the emergency medical station, which you'll probably need. Why would we need medical assistance? Pip squeaked, his antenna drooping. Is Earth dangerous? Kid, everything here is dangerous, Jake said. Last week, a student got hospitalized because they tried to pet a raccoon. The week before that, someone had an allergic reaction to peanuts. And don't even get me started on the geese. Vrix snorted. Crothians are immune to all known toxins in the galaxy. Our warriors can survive in vacuum for up to 3 minutes. Your Earth animals are nothing. Jake felt his eye twitch. Sleep deprivation and alien superiority complexes were a bad combination. Sure, he said. Our smallest spider could probably kill you, but what do I know? I just work here. The words were out before his brain caught up with his mouth. Vrix's eyes, all 4 of them, focused on Jake with laser intensity. Your smallest spider, Vrix repeated slowly, could kill a Crothian warrior. The greatest fighters in the known galaxy. Theoretically, Jake backpedaled. I mean, probably not, that was just, hyperbole. I accept your challenge. Human. That wasn't a challenge. We shall tour your planet's dangers, Vrix declared, drawing himself up to his full height. And I shall prove that Crothians are superior to all Earth life. Zarn's recording device zoomed in on Jake's face, which Jake imagined looked like a man watching his peaceful semester catch fire and burn. Great, Jake said. Field trip. Everyone back on the bus. Jake's original plan had been to show them the gymnasium. Maybe the particle accelerator, definitely the cafeteria's questionable meatloaf, and then call it a day. Instead, he found himself leading 4 aliens through the biology building's courtyard, desperately trying to find something that would make his point without actually killing anyone. The universe, sensing his discomfort, immediately provided a cat. Professor Henderson's tabby, a portly orange creature named Chairman Meow, sat in the middle of the path, licking its paw with the arrogance only a cat could achieve. Behold, Vrix announced, one of your Earth creatures. I shall demonstrate Crothian dominance. Please don't fight the cat, Jake said wearily. Vrix approached Chairman Meow with the confidence of someone who had never met a cat before. He reached down with one clawed hand. The cat, operating on pure feline instinct and personal offense, immediately transformed into a ball of hissing fury, claws out, back arched, emitting a sound like a demon being exorcised. Vrix jumped back 3 feet. Moop screamed. Pip dropped his data pad. Zarn got it all on camera. A worthy opponent, Rix declared, recovering his composure. But merely startled by my approach. Sure, Jake said. The cat totally respects you. Keep walking. They made it another 50 yards before encountering a bee. Just one bee floating lazily near a flower bed. Doing bee things, completely unaware it was about to cause an interstellar incident. Moop saw it first. What is that flying thing? That's a bee, Jake explained. It pollinates flowers. Also, it can sting you, but honestly, it's more afraid of you than you are of it. This turned out to be incorrect. The bee, perhaps sensing Moop's rising panic or perhaps just having a bad day, decided to investigate the strange alien. It flew closer. Moop's 3 eyes went wide with terror. It's attacking! It's attacking! It's just curious, Jake started to say, but Moop had already bolted, screaming in a frequency that made every dog in a 5-mile radius start barking. The bee, now definitely annoyed, gave chase. Pip ran after Moop, trying to calm him down. Zarn filmed the whole thing, laughing. Rix watched the chaos with what Jake assumed was disgust. Moop is young. He has not yet mastered fear. He's got pretty good survival instincts, though, Jake observed. That bee could actually hurt him. Bee venom is basically an allergic response trigger. We have no idea what it would do to Crothian biology. For the first time, Rix looked slightly less confident. We are immune to toxins, yeah, to your galaxy's toxins. Earth evolved separately. Different chemistry, different problems. Impossible, Jake shrugged. Your funeral. Or medical emergency. Whatever comes first. The grand finale came courtesy of Gerald the Goose, a notoriously aggressive waterfowl that patrolled the campus pond like a feathered mafia boss. Gerald took one look at the group of aliens invading his territory and decided violence was the answer. What followed was 3 minutes of pure chaos as a 12-pound goose chased 4 aliens and one very tired professor around the pond. Gerald honked with righteous fury. Rix tried to maintain dignity while speed walking away from a bird. Pip cried. Moop had already climbed a tree. Zarn's camera work became extremely shaky. Finally, Jake threw a piece of bread in the opposite direction, and Gerald, deciding food was better than murder, waddled away. That, Rix panted, was not a worthy opponent. That was a demon. That was a goose, Jake corrected. Anyway, I think we've established that Earth has some things you might want to be careful around. Can we call it a day? Absolutely not, Rix said, his pride clearly wounded. These were merely ambush predators and territorial creatures. Show me your laboratory. Show me your actual dangerous specimens. I will prove that Crothians fear nothing. Jake checked his watch. It was only 2 in the afternoon. He was too tired for this. Fine, he said. But if you die, I'm not filling out the paperwork. They headed toward Jake's lab, where his research specimens waited in their terrariums, completely unaware they were about to change interstellar relations forever. Jake's laboratory was exactly what you'd expect from an overworked xenobiologist, with a modest grant budget, cluttered slightly dusty, and filled with enough preserved specimens in jars to make it look like either a serious research facility or a serial killer's basement, depending on the lighting. Welcome to my humble workspace, Jake said, flipping on the lights. Try not to touch anything. Most of it won't kill you, but some of it definitely will, and I don't remember which is which. Pip immediately pressed his face against the nearest terrarium, his antenna quivering with excitement. Are these all Earth species? Yep, that's a tarantula, that's a scorpion, that's a millipede, and that one's just a really aggressive hamster that I am pretty sure is plotting my death. Rix examined the specimens with the air of someone touring a petting zoo. These are your dangerous creatures? They are tiny. Size isn't everything, Jake said, then paused. That's what she said. Sorry, mandatory joke. Anyway, the point is that Earth's deadliest creatures often aren't the biggest ones. Take that box jellyfish over there. Basically invisible in water, smaller than your hand, and has enough venom to kill 50 humans. But not a Crothian, Rix said smugly. Probably not, Jake admitted. But here's the thing. You guys evolved in a completely different biochemical environment. Your immunity means nothing here because your bodies have never encountered our specific cocktail of nastiness. He walked over to a smaller terrarium on his desk, one he'd been studying for a research paper. Inside, on a carefully constructed miniature landscape, sat one of Earth's most beautiful and least threatening arachnids. Case in point, Jake said. This is a peacock spider, Muratus volans specifically. Native to Australia, which is basically Earth's way of saying everything here can kill you but colorfully. This little guy is about 5 millimeters long. The spider, sensing attention, did what peacock spiders do when they want to show off. It raised its abdomen, revealing an iridescent fan of blue, red, and yellow, and began to dance, moving side to side in a movement that looked absurdly like a tiny person doing the wave. Pip gasped. "It's beautiful!" Zarn zoomed in with his camera. "That's actually pretty cool," Moop whispered. "Is it threatening us?" "No," Jake laughed. "He's doing a mating dance." Male peacock spiders do this elaborate display to attract females. It's harmless. Well, harmless to humans. I've been studying whether their venom has any interesting properties for cross-species applications. But honestly, they barely have enough venom to bother a fruit fly. Vrix leaned in closer, his warrior's pride clearly wounded by finding a creature cute. "This tiny creature is what you think could threaten a Crothian?" "I didn't say this one specifically," Jake started to clarify. That's when Zarn, still filming and not watching where he was going, backed directly into Jake's desk. The terrarium wobbled. Jake lunged for it. Time seemed to slow down as the container tipped, balanced on the edge for one eternal moment, and then crashed to the floor. "See?" Glass shattered. The carefully constructed habitat exploded into dirt and tiny plants. And somewhere in the chaos, one very confused and now very angry peacock spider scrambled for safety. "Nobody move," Jake said quietly. Everyone moved. Pip yelped and jumped backward. Moop climbed onto a chair. Zarn's camera clattered to the floor. And Vrix, operating on pure warrior instinct and wounded pride, looked down at the tiny spider that had landed near his foot. "Pathetic," Vrix muttered. He reached down, clearly intending to flick the spider away like the insignificant creature it was. "Wait, don't!" Jake started. Too late. Vrix's finger came down toward the spider. The spider, feeling threatened and having exactly zero context for what a Crothian was, did the only thing millions of years of evolution had taught it to do when threatened. It bit him. The sound Vrix made wasn't quite a laugh, wasn't quite a scoff, but definitely contained all the confidence of someone who had no idea what was about to happen. Vrix said, straightening up. "Nothing. Your tiny spider is powerless against." He stopped, looked at his hand. Looked at Jake. His hand was swelling. Fast. Vrix said, and Jake had never heard uncertainty in the commander's voice before. "Is this normal?" Jake felt his stomach drop into his shoes. He'd read a paper last month, just a preliminary study about how Earth venoms could interact unpredictably with non-terrestrial biochemistry. He thought it was interesting, academic, theoretical, not theoretical anymore. "How do you feel?" Jake asked carefully. "I feel ... Vrix paused. His hand had swollen to twice its normal size. "Strange." Then his legs buckled, and the greatest warrior of the Crothian Empire collapsed onto Jake's laboratory floor like a sack of very heavy, very expensive problems. For approximately 5 seconds, nobody moved. They all stared at Vrix's unconscious form sprawled across the linoleum, his hand now swollen to 3 times its normal size and turning an alarming shade of purple that Jake was fairly certain wasn't a natural Crothian color. Then everyone moved at once. "He's dead." Moop shrieked, his voice hitting a pitch that probably shattered windows in another dimension. "He's not dead," Pip said, dropping to his knees and pulling out his datapad with shaking hands. "His vital signs are still, oh no, they're fluctuating wildly." Cross-referencing with Crothian physiology database, searching for Earth spider venom, searching for, oh no, there's no data on this interaction. Zarn stood frozen, his camera still recording, his face cycling through several colors. "This is not good. This is very not good. My parents are going to kill me. Commander Vrix's parents are going to kill me. Everyone is going to kill me." Jake was already on his phone dialing the emergency number for Earth's Xenomedical Response Unit, a department that had been created exactly 3 months ago when the exchange program started and had, until now, dealt mostly with paperwork and confused aliens who ate dairy despite being lactose intolerant. "XRU, this is dispatch," a bored voice answered. "This is Professor Martinez at the university. I have a medical emergency." Crothian commander, bitten by a peacock spider, currently unconscious, severe allergic reaction, "Get someone here now." There was a pause. "Did you say peacock spider?" "Yes." "The tiny ones?" The ones with the dances? Yes. Get someone here, or I'm going to have an interstellar incident on my hands. Dispatching Unit 7, ETA 4 minutes. Keep him breathing. Jake dropped to the floor beside Pip. Is he breathing? I think so. Crothians breathe through spiracles in their thorax. I can see movement, but I don't know if it's enough movement. Rix's 4 eyes fluttered. He groaned, which was slightly better than being unconscious, but also somehow more disturbing. Can single quotes T. feel my honor, he mumbled. That's not a real body part, Jake said. Everything hurts. Why does everything hurt? Rix tried to sit up, failed, and lay back down. Defeated by something 5 millimeters, the shame. The unbearable shame. Stay down, Pip commanded, his nervousness temporarily overridden by what appeared to be medical training. You're experiencing a severe xenobiological reaction. Your immune system is fighting venom it doesn't recognize. Just breathe. Through your spiracles, like we learned in school. Where's the spider? Jake asked suddenly, looking around the destroyed lab. There! Moop pointed at a corner where the peacock spider sat on a piece of broken terrarium, still doing its little mating dance, completely unbothered by the chaos it had unleashed. Jake grabbed an empty jar and carefully captured it. The spider continued dancing inside the glass, living its best life. The door burst open. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of the XRU, walked in carrying a medical kit that looked like it could sustain life on Mars. She was short, wore glasses, and had the expression of someone who had seen absolutely everything the universe could throw at her and was no longer impressed. She looked at Rix on the floor, looked at the shattered terrarium, looked at Jake holding a jar with a tiny spider, looked back at Rix. Let me guess, she said in the flattest voice imaginable. Someone ignored the safety protocols. He tried to touch it, Jake said quickly. I told him not to touch things. Did you tell him, or did you tell him in your special sarcastic way that makes it sound like you read joking? I may have used sarcasm. Dr. Tanaka sighed the sigh of someone whose entire job was cleaning up after idiots. She knelt beside Rix, pulling out a scanner that hummed and beeped over his swollen arm. Massive histamine response. Venom proteins binding to Crothian neural receptors. This is fascinating. Also terrible, but fascinating. Am I dying? Rix asked weakly. Not on my watch. You're going to wish you were dying, though. This is going to hurt. She pulled out what looked like 3 injections. Broad-spectrum antihistamine, xenobiological immune suppressant, and something I invented last week that might work. Hold him down, Pip squeaked. He's about to have a very bad time. She wasn't wrong. The injections made Rix convulse once, twice, then go still. His breathing steadied. The swelling in his hands slowly began to recede. Color returned to his face, or at least what Jake assumed was normal Crothian color. Dr. Tanaka stood, brushing off her knees. He'll live. He'll need observation for the next 24 hours. And he'll never live this down. She looked at Jake. You're going to have so much paperwork. I know. So much paperwork. I know. The kind of paperwork that makes you question your career choices. Already there, Jake said. She walked over to examine the spider in the jar. Cute little guy. Completely harmless to humans. Nearly lethal to Crothians. I'm keeping this for research. She paused. Actually, I'm keeping all of you for research. Get in the van. We're going to the medical center. As they loaded an unconscious Rix onto a stretcher, Zarn finally spoke up. So, I was streaming this whole thing live to my followers back home. Everyone stopped and stared at him. What? He said defensively. I have 6 million subscribers. Jake put his face in his hands. This was going to be so much worse than he thought. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself, which was technically impossible, but apparently nobody had told the galactic internet that, within 6 hours, Zarn's livestream had been viewed 2 billion times. Within 12 hours, it had been memmed into oblivion. Within 24 hours, Defeated by Peacock Spider was the #1 trending topic in 47 different star systems. Jake learned this while sitting in the medical center's waiting room, staring at his tablet, watching his life become an interstellar joke in real time. Someone had already made a remix of Rix saying, "Cut and feel my honor" with dubstep beats. It had 5 million likes. Dr. Tanaka emerged from the observation room, pulling off her gloves. He's stable, awake, humiliated beyond measure, but physically fine. Can Can I see him? Sure. Fair warning, he's been alternating between asking for an honorable death and asking to see the spider again. I don't know which is more concerning. Jake entered the observation room. Rix lay in a hospital bed that was clearly designed for humans and far too small for his 8-foot frame. His legs hung off the end. His arm was still bandaged, though the swelling had gone down significantly. He looked utterly defeated. Professor Martinez, Rix said quietly. I owe you an apology. Jake pulled up a chair. You really don't. I do. I came to your planet with arrogance. I assumed that because Crothians had conquered 47 worlds, we were superior to all life. I mocked your warnings. I ignored your expertise. And I was defeated by a creature so small I could barely see it. In your defense, peacock spiders are really small. That is not a defense. That makes it worse. Rix tried to sit up, winced, and lay back down. I have been a warrior my entire life. I have trained in 17 forms of combat. I have survived battles that would make your generals weep. And I was taken down by something that was trying to attract a mate, not even trying to fight. Yeah, that's Earth for you, Jake said. We're a death world, Rix, not because we have giant monsters or plasma storms. Because we have millions of years of evolution, creating millions of different ways to kill things. And none of them care how tough you think you are. I understand that now. Rix looked at his bandaged hand. My superiors have been notified of the incident. The Crothian High Command is apparently very interested in understanding how our greatest warrior was defeated by Earth's smallest spider. Oh, good. More paperwork for me. They're also recalling me with honor, thankfully. But I am to return home and brief them on Earth's dangers. They're considering reclassifying your planet as a high-risk world. We're literally not trying to be dangerous, Jake protested. This is just how things are here. Which makes it more terrifying. Rix actually smiled, revealing teeth that could probably bite through steel. You humans live among these creatures every day. The spiders, the bees, the geese. And you treat them as normal, as harmless. That is either profound bravery or profound insanity. Little bit of both, honestly. The door opened. Pip, Moop, and Zarn entered hesitantly. Pip was carrying what looked like 17 data pads. Moop was hiding behind the other two. Zarn looked like he hadn't slept, which was probably accurate. Commander, Pip said formally, we came to check on your recovery and to, apologize for our behavior during the emergency. There is nothing to apologize for, Rix said. You reacted appropriately to danger. Unlike me, who reacted with pride and stupidity. I already wrote 3 research papers on what happened. Pip continued, holding up his data pads. Analysis of Earth venom proteins, comparative study of Crothian immune response, and proposed safety protocols for future exchange students. Professor Martinez helped me with the technical details. What? I didn't help. I just corrected the parts where you called Earth a hell world. It is a hell world? A beautiful, fascinating hell world, but still. Zarn stepped forward, looking genuinely sorry for possibly the first time in his life. Commander, I need to tell you something. The livestream ... it's gone viral. Really viral, I'm sorry. I should have turned it off when things got serious. I was just so used to filming everything that I didn't think. Show me, Rix interrupted. What? Show me the video. I want to see it. Zarn pulled up his device, hesitated, then showed Rix the edited highlight reel that someone had made. It showed Rix's bravado, the spider bite, his collapse, and ended with his "Can't Feel My Honor" line remixed with dramatic music. The room was silent, then Rix started laughing. It was a rough, wheezing sound, but definitely laughter. This is ... actually funny, he said. I am a meme. A Crothian war commander is a meme. My ancestors are spinning in their honor crypts. So you're not mad? Zarn asked carefully. I am furious. I am humiliated. I am never living this down. Rix kept laughing. But I am also alive, and I have learned the most important lesson a warrior can learn. Respect your environment, or your environment will humble you. Even if that environment is a tiny spider that just wanted to mate. Dr. Tanaka stuck her head in. Glad everyone's having fun. Just so you know, the Galactic Academic Board has called an emergency session. Professor Martinez, you're required to testify. Something about how this incident reflects on Earth's readiness for interstellar education exchange. Of course they have, Jake muttered. Also, CNN wants an interview. So does Galactic Geographic. And something called Humans Are Space Orcs podcast. Absolutely not. Your choice. Personally, I'd do it. We could use the funding. She tossed Jake a datapad. Your incident report. I took the liberty of starting it. You're welcome. Jake looked at the first line. On this day, Commander Vrix of the Crothian Empire learned that size doesn't matter. Earth is terrifying and peacock spiders are not to be underestimated. I can't submit this. You absolutely can. It's accurate. 3 months passed. The incident report was filed, edited heavily, and filed again. The Galactic Academic Board decided that Earth would continue hosting exchange students, but with significantly enhanced safety protocols. Jake became an accidental celebrity in xenobiology circles, a status he hated almost as much as he hated paperwork. Rix returned to his homeworld, where he became an unexpected advocate for respecting Earth's biodiversity. His presentation to the Crothian High Command, titled How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Fear the Tiny Spider, became required viewing for all Crothian military personnel. The students completed their semester. Pip published his research papers and became the youngest recipient of the Interstellar Biology Prize. Zarn's channel, now called Humans Are Insane, reached 50 million subscribers and sparked a galaxy-wide fascination with Earth culture. Moop developed a severe phobia of anything with more than 2 legs, but also discovered a passion for marine biology, since fish don't have legs at all. Dr. Tanaka successfully synthesized a broad-spectrum antivenom for peacock spider bites that worked on 47 different alien species. She named it Vrix's Shame in the medical database, and no amount of official complaints from the Crothian Empire could make her change it. And the peacock spider? Jake named him Tiny, kept him in a secure terrarium, and frequently used him as a teaching tool. Tiny lived his best life, dancing for students, occasionally appearing on Galactic news broadcasts, and having absolutely no idea that he had single-handedly changed interstellar relations. Welcome to Earth Survival Orientation, Jake said to the newest batch of alien exchange students. I'm Professor Martinez. I'll be your guide through the mandatory 40-page waiver that stands between you and possible death by seemingly harmless creatures. The classroom held 23 aliens from 14 different species. They ranged from the silicon-based Quarrens who looked like walking geodes to the gaseous Velnari who floated in containment suits. All of them looked either excited or terrified or both. Before we begin, Jake continued, I need to address the elephant in the room. Yes, that's an Earth expression. No, we won't be covering elephants today, although they can absolutely kill you. I'm talking about the incident from last semester that you've all definitely seen because it has 4 billion views across the galactic net. Several students shifted uncomfortably. One raised a tentacle. Yes? Is it true that your smallest spider defeated a Crothian war commander? It's true. It's also more complicated than that. But yes, fundamentally, Commander Vrix was incapacitated by a peacock spider that's about 5 millimeters long. Jake paused for effect. This is Earth. Size means nothing here. Cuteness means nothing. Your confidence definitely means nothing. Evolution on this planet has created millions of species, and a significant percentage of them can absolutely ruin your day through venom, bacteria, viruses, physical trauma, or psychological damage. He clicked to the next slide, which showed a picture of Tiny doing his mating dance. This is Tiny. You'll meet him later. He lives in a very secure terrarium now. He's harmless to humans. He could kill or seriously harm approximately 67% of known alien species. We know this because Dr. Tanaka spent 3 months testing his venom proteins against different biochemistries. Tiny cooperated by being adorable and occasionally biting test samples. He's very good at his job. A Quarren student, whose name was something Jake couldn't pronounce and had asked to be called Rocky, raised a crystalline hand. Professor, why would evolution create something so dangerous that's also so small? Great question. Earth is what we call a high-competition environment. Lots of species, limited resources, constant pressure to survive and reproduce. So evolution got creative. Tiny doesn't need to be big to defend himself. He just needs to be toxic enough that predators learn to avoid him. The bright colors are actually a warning. They say eat me and you'll regret it. But he was doing a mating dance, not a threat display, another student pointed out. Correct. He bit Commander Vrix because he felt threatened. The commander reached for him. Tiny responded the only way he knew how. It wasn't personal. It wasn't strategic. It was just biology. Jake clicked to the next slide, which showed a bee. Which brings us to lesson 1. Intent doesn't matter. That bee doesn't hate you. That snake doesn't have a vendetta. That goose probably does hate you specifically, but it's not personal. They're just doing what evolution programmed them to do. He spent the next hour walking through Earth's various dangers. Venomous creatures, poisonous plants, diseases, allergens, parasites, the weather, other humans. The list was extensive and slightly depressing. Now, Jake said, let's talk about the safety protocols. Rule 1. If a human tells you not to touch something, don't touch it. Rule 2. If something is brightly colored, don't touch it. Rule 3. If something is making noise at you, don't touch it. Rule 4. If you're unsure, don't touch it. Rule 5. Generally, just don't touch things. What can we touch? Rocky asked. Your own belongings. Designated equipment. Pre-approved fauna at the petting zoo we've set up. Nothing else without explicit permission and supervision. A Velnari student's translator crackled to life. This seems excessive. Surely not everything on Earth is dangerous. You're absolutely right, Jake agreed. Only about 30% of species here can directly harm you. The other 70% are harmless. The problem is figuring out which is which. That's what these classes are for. He walked over to the secure terrarium on his desk. Inside, Tiny was building a new web, completely oblivious to his status as the galaxy's most famous arachnid. Tiny here has become something of an ambassador, Jake said. After the incident, we got requests from 40 different planets wanting to understand Earth's biodiversity. Xenobiologists from across the galaxy have studied him. He's been on magazine covers. He has his own social media account that Dr. Tanaka runs because I refused. What happened to Commander Vrix? Someone asked. He recovered fully. He actually sends me updates every few weeks. Last I heard, he is training the next generation of Crothian warriors, and apparently his first lesson is respect all life forms regardless of size. He also sent me this. Jake gestured to a ceremonial Crothian warblade mounted on his wall. It's traditional to give weapons to warriors you respect. I use it as a letter opener. Very expensive letter opener. The students laughed, which was progress. They'd come in terrified. Now they were merely concerned, which was the appropriate level of emotion for studying on Earth. The students from last semester, Jake continued, have all gone on to do interesting things. Pip is revolutionizing comparative xenobiology. Zarn is making humanity look like the galaxy's most interesting disaster species through his videos. Moop works remotely from space because he refuses to be on the same planet as spiders anymore, which is valid. What about you, Professor? Rocky asked. Did you want to become famous for the spider incident? Absolutely not. I wanted to study alien biology quietly and publish boring papers that 3 people would read. Instead, I'm now the mandatory orientation leader for every exchange student. I've been interviewed 17 times. My inbox gets 50 messages a day asking about Earth's death world status. It's exhausting. He paused, looking at the classroom full of aliens from across the galaxy, all of them here to learn, to grow, to experience Earth despite its dangers. But it's also kind of amazing, he admitted. 3 years ago, we didn't know aliens existed. Now I'm teaching students from 14 different worlds how not to die from bee stings. That's progress. Weird, terrifying, bureaucratic progress, but still. Jake pulled up the final slide, which showed Earth from space, blue and green and beautiful. Here's the thing about Earth, he said. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, you need to be careful. Yes, there are 40 pages of waivers and protocols, but it's also incredible. We have more biodiversity than most planets see in their entire evolutionary history. We have ecosystems that shouldn't work but do. We have creatures that are beautiful and deadly and fascinating. And yes, we have tiny spiders that can take down war commanders. But we also have fireflies that light up summer nights and dolphins that play in the waves, and trees that have lived for thousands of years. He clicked to a video of Tiny doing his courtship dance, the iridescent colors flashing in the light. This little guy didn't mean to become famous. He didn't mean to change interstellar relations. He was just trying to survive and maybe find a mate. That's Earth, beautiful, dangerous, and completely indifferent to your expectations. Respect it, learn from it, and you'll have the experience of a lifetime. Jake walked back to his desk and pulled out a stack of data pads. These are your orientation materials. Study them, memorize them. There will be a test. Fail the test, and you don't get cleared for independent movement on campus. Pass the test, and you get access to supervised field trips, the petting zoo, and eventually, if you're very careful and very lucky, actual Earth wildlife observation. When do we meet, Tiny? Someone asked eagerly. Week 3. After you've proven you understand basic safety protocols. After you've passed the identifying dangerous versus harmless creatures exam. And after you've signed an additional waiver specifically about arachnid interaction. There's a specific waiver just for spiders. There's a specific waiver for everything now. Welcome to Earth, where the lawyers are almost as dangerous as the wildlife. The students filed out, chattering among themselves. Some excited, some nervous, all of them clutching their orientation materials like lifelines. Jake watched them go, feeling the familiar mix of exhaustion and satisfaction that came with his job. His phone buzzed. A message from Vrix. Heard you have new students, don't let them touch the spiders. Trust me on this. Also, Tiny's social media account just hit 10 million followers. Dr. Tanaka is very pleased with herself. Jake smiled and typed back, too late. Already planning the spider interaction session. How else will they learn? You're insane. I'm human. Same thing, apparently. He looked at Tiny's terrarium. The little spider had finished his web and was now sitting in the center, probably waiting for food or just enjoying existence. Completely unaware that he'd become a symbol of Earth's chaotic relationship with the rest of the galaxy. You know what, Tiny? Jake said to the spider, who obviously couldn't understand him and didn't care. Maybe this is better. Maybe instead of trying to look impressive or powerful, we just let the universe figure out that Earth is weird all on its own. One tiny spider at a time. Tiny did a little dance, though whether it was in response or just because that's what peacock spiders do was impossible to say. Jake's computer pinged with a new message. The Galactic Academic Board wanted to expand the exchange program to 50 more students next semester. There would be more orientations, more protocols, more paperwork, and inevitably, more incidents because apparently nobody could resist touching things they'd been explicitly told not to touch. But there would also be more students like Pip, eager to learn and share knowledge. More breakthroughs in xenobiology. More understanding between species. More proof that despite humanity's tendency toward chaos, they could still make this whole interstellar community thing work. Professor Martinez? Rocky had returned, standing in the doorway. I had a question about the reading materials. Shoot. There's a section about something called drop bears. It says they're a deadly Australian predator that drops from trees. But when I searched the database, I found conflicting information suggesting they might not be real. Jake tried to keep a straight face. He really did, but the urge was too strong. Rocky, he said seriously, drop bears are absolutely real. Terrifying creatures. You should definitely be worried about them. In fact, let me add a special lecture about Australian wildlife. For your safety? Really? Would I lie to you about something that could affect your survival? Rocky's crystalline features somehow managed to look concerned. I suppose not. Thank you, Professor. I'll study the drop bear section extra carefully. After Rocky left, Jake allowed himself a small, evil smile. Some traditions were too important to abandon. Messing with exchange students about drop bears was apparently one of them. He'd tell Rocky the truth eventually. Probably. Maybe. His phone buzzed again. Dr. Tanaka. I heard that. Stop traumatizing the new students about drop bears. How did you hear that? I have spies everywhere. Also, your office mic is on. You're welcome for the security measure. That's literally surveillance. It's protective monitoring. There's a difference. Come to the medical center when you're done. We're doing the weekly venom resistance tests on the new students. Bring Tiny, he's good for morale. He's a spider. He's a famous spider. There's a difference. Jake carefully secured Tiny's terrarium and headed for the medical center. Another day on Earth, another group of aliens learning that humanity's planet was beautiful, terrifying, and absolutely not to be underestimated. 3 months later, the new batch of students would complete their orientation. They'd meet Tiny under controlled circumstances. They'd go on supervised field trips where at least 2 of them would try to pet something they shouldn't. They'd learn that Earth's deadliest feature, wasn't its creatures but its complete refusal to conform to galactic expectations. And somewhere, on a distant planet, Commander Vrix would receive updates and photos from each new class, adding them to his growing collection of "humans are insane, but I respect them" documentation. Earth's reputation across the galaxy had changed. They were no longer the unknown newcomers. They were the death world with tiny deadly spiders, aggressive geese, and humans who somehow survived it all while calling it Tuesday. Jake walked across campus, carrying a spider that weighed less than a penny and had changed interstellar history. Students, human and alien, alike waved as he passed. The sun was shining. The geese were plotting their usual chaos. Somewhere, a bee was just being a bee. It was a perfectly normal day on Earth, which meant it was absolutely insane by everyone else's standards. Jake wouldn't have it any other way. As he entered the medical center, Dr. Tanaka was waiting with her usual expression of professional exasperation. "You're late. I'm exactly on time. Time is relative. Also, Tiny's social media team wants to do a Q&A session." I told them yes. Tiny doesn't have a social media team. He does now. I hired them with the merchandising revenue. There's merchandising? Tiny plushies, tiny t-shirts, tiny educational materials. We've made enough to fund 3 new xenobiology scholarships. You're welcome. Jake looked at Tiny peacefully sitting in his terrarium, living his best spider life, completely unaware that he was now a brand. "This is the weirdest timeline," Jake muttered. "This is Earth," Dr. Tanaka corrected. "Weird is our baseline. Now come on." We have 23 students waiting to learn about venom resistance testing, and they're all terrified, which is exactly how they should be. They walked into the testing room together, where the new students waited with varying expressions of concern. Jake set Tiny's terrarium on the demonstration table. The spider, sensing an audience, immediately began his courtship dance. "All right, everyone," Jake announced. "Let me tell you a story about the time a 5mm spider changed the galaxy. Pay attention, because the test later will be comprehensive, and I promise you don't want to fail it." As he launched into the tale that had become legend, Jake caught himself smiling. Yes, this was chaotic. Yes, this was exhausting. Yes, he'd somehow become the face of humanity. Zess, we survived our death world, and so can you. Educational initiative. But looking at those students, aliens from across the galaxy, here to learn about Earth despite its dangers, curious and nervous and brave enough to try, Jake realized something important. Humanity had spent centuries looking up at the stars, wondering if they were alone, dreaming of first contact. They'd imagined it would be profound, momentous, world-changing. They'd been right, technically. But nobody had imagined it would involve a peacock spider, a sarcastic professor, and an entire galaxy deciding that humans were the galaxy's most fascinating disaster species. Then again, that was probably the most human way for first contact to go. Any questions before we begin? Jake asked the class. 23 hands, tentacles, and appendages shot up. Jake grinned. Perfect. Let's get started. Welcome to Earth. Try not to die. Behind him, Tiny continued his dance. 5mm of iridescent proof that on Earth, size truly didn't matter. What mattered was respect, caution, and the understanding that evolution cared nothing for your warrior pride or your technological advancement. What mattered was survival. And maybe, just maybe, learning to appreciate the beautiful, deadly, chaotic wonder of a planet that had never asked to be anyone's nightmare, but had somehow become everyone's favorite cautionary tale. Earth, where the smallest spider could humble the greatest warrior, where geese were demons with feathers, and where humanity just kept showing up to teach the galaxy that life finds a way, usually the weirdest, most unexpected way possible. And somewhere in the cosmos on a Crothian warship commander, Vrix looked at the newest video from Jake's classroom and smiled his terrifying smile, proud of his former students, grateful for his humbling and forever respectful of creatures 5mm long. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Earth was not to be underestimated, neither were its spiders. And definitely not its professors who turned interstellar incidents into comprehensive educational programs. Class was in session. The galaxy was paying attention, and Jake? Jake was exactly where he was supposed to be, teaching the next generation to respect the tiny dancers who could change everything.